She sat alone at table 17, staring at the text message that destroyed her. Sorry, can't make it. You're just not my type. Around her, the restaurant buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, the sound of people who belonged. Lena Carter had never felt more invisible. She was 30 years old, wearing her best dress, and completely, utterly alone. What she didn't know was that across the room, a man who could buy this entire building was watching her, and he was about to make a decision that would shatter both their carefully constructed walls. Before we dive in, if you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far this story travels. And if you end up staying till the end, hit that like button. Trust me, you'll want to see where this goes. The restaurant was called Marcello's, one of those places that tried too hard to be romantic. Soft jazz played from hidden speakers. Candles flickered on every table, casting shadows that made everyone look better than they actually were. The kind of place where proposals happened, where anniversaries were celebrated, where people fell in love or pretended to. Lena Carter sat at table 17 and wished the floor would open up and swallow her whole. Her phone lay face up on the white tablecloth, the message still glowing. Sorry, can't make it. You're just not my type. 6 words. That's all it took to confirm what she'd suspected since middle school, that she was forgettable. The kind of woman people looked past, looked through, looked around, never at. She'd spent 2 hours getting ready, 2 hours she didn't have, considering she'd stayed up until midnight the previous evening grading spelling tests for her kindergarten class. She tried on 4 different dresses before settling on this one, navy blue, simple, the nicest thing she owned that didn't have chalk dust permanently embedded in the fabric. For nothing. For a text message from a man she'd never even met. Can I get you started with something to drink? The waiter appeared at her elbow, young and polite, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. He'd already figured out what was happening. They always did. Just water, please. But her voice came out smaller than she intended. Waiting for someone? The kindness in his tone made it worse somehow. No, actually, I'll just take the check for the water. It's on the house. He disappeared before she could argue. Lena picked up her phone, then set it down again. Picked up her purse. Put it back down. She couldn't seem to make her body do what her brain was screaming at it to do. Get up and leave. Just stand up and walk out with whatever dignity she had left. But her legs wouldn't cooperate. Around her, the restaurant continued its dance. To her right, a couple in their 60s held hands across the table, sharing a dessert. To her left, a young guy in a suit was down on one knee, and the entire restaurant had gone quiet, watching as his girlfriend said yes, watching as she cried and he cried and everyone applauded. Lena looked away. She checked her phone again. Maybe Elliot had sent another message. Maybe he'd had a change of heart, was caught in traffic, had a good excuse. Nothing. She opened their previous conversation, scrolling back through the messages from the past week. They'd been set up by a mutual friend, Rachel from the yoga class Lena could barely afford. Rachel had insisted that Elliot was perfect for her. Investment banker, 33, recently single. Loved dogs. Their text exchanges had been fine. Not sparkling, but fine. He'd suggested Marcello's. She'd agreed. He'd said 7 o'clock. She'd arrived at 6:55 because she was always early, always prepared, always the good girl who followed the rules. And now she was alone. The waiter returned with her water along with a basket of bread she hadn't ordered. Take your time, he said, his kindness almost unbearable. Lena took a sip of water. It tasted like humiliation. She should go. She should absolutely go. But something kept her frozen in place. Maybe pride? Maybe stubbornness? Maybe the simple fact that going home to her tiny studio apartment meant admitting that this was her life. 30 years old, single, working a job she loved but that barely paid rent, eating dinner alone most nights, waking up alone every morning. Not that there was anything wrong with being single. Lena believed that. She did. But there was a difference between choosing to be alone and being chosen against, being looked at and found wanting, being someone's not my type. Her phone buzzed. Her heart jumped. But it wasn't Elliot. It was Rachel. How's it going? Lena stared at the message, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. What was she supposed to say? That she was sitting alone in a restaurant designed for couples. That she'd been stood up via text message. That she was apparently so unappealing that a man she'd never met had decided she wasn't worth a single evening of his time. She typed, "Great." then deleted it. Typed, "He's not coming," then deleted that too. Finally settled on, "Still here," which was technically true and committed her to nothing. Rachel's response was immediate. "Send me a pic of him." Lena locked her phone and set it face down on the table. The jazz music swelled. Someone laughed, bright and carefree. Lena took another sip of water and felt something crack open inside her chest, something that had been building for years. Not just tonight, not just Elliot, but everything. Every first date that never led to a second. Every promising conversation that fizzled out. Every time she'd checked her phone and found nothing. Every wedding she'd attended alone. Every family dinner where her mother asked about her love life with that particular combination of hope and concern that made Lena want to scream. She was so tired of being brave about it, so tired of pretending it didn't hurt. The breadbasket sat in front of her, warm and fragrant. She took a piece, tore it in half, but couldn't bring herself to eat it. Her throat had closed up. She should leave. She should definitely leave. But where would she go? Back to her apartment, where the silence pressed in from all sides, where she'd spend another evening alone, probably grade more papers, probably fall asleep on the couch watching reruns of shows she'd seen 100 times. At least here, surrounded by other people, she could pretend to be part of something. Could pretend, for just a little while longer, that she was the kind of woman men showed up for. The couple to her right was leaving, the husband helping his wife with her coat, his hand gentle on her shoulder. They'd been married 40 years, Lena decided. Had raised 3 kids, owned a house with a garden, had created a whole life together. They probably argued about mundane things, whose turn it was to take out the trash, what to watch on television, but they had each other. They had that fundamental certainty that someone chose them and kept choosing them, day after day, year after year. Lena wanted that. Was that so pathetic? To want to be chosen? Her vision blurred. No, absolutely not. She was not going to cry in this restaurant. She refused to give this place, this night, this disaster of an evening that much power over her. She blinked hard, swallowed the lump in her throat, and reached for her water glass again. That's when she noticed him. A man sitting alone at the bar watching her. Not watching. That made it sound predatory. Observing, maybe. His gaze was steady but not invasive, curious but not cruel. He was dressed simply, dark jeans, a plain black shirt, but there was something about the way he carried himself that suggested he didn't need expensive clothes to command attention. Their eyes met across the restaurant, and for a moment Lena forgot how to breathe. He was handsome in an unexpected way. Not magazine cover perfect, but real. Strong jaw, dark hair that looked like he'd run his hands through it too many times, eyes that seemed to see more than they should. Mid-30s, maybe. Tired around the edges, like he understood exactly what it felt like to sit alone in a room full of people. He raised his glass slightly, whiskey, probably, in what might have been a salute, or might have been an acknowledgement, or might have been nothing at all. Lena looked away quickly, heat flooding her cheeks. Great. Perfect. Now some stranger was witnessing her humiliation. This night just kept getting better. She grabbed her purse, finally ready to leave, ready to end this nightmare and go home and never agree to another blind date as long as she lived. But before she could stand, the man from the bar was walking toward her table. No. No, no, no. Lena's heart started racing. She didn't want pity. Didn't want some well-meaning stranger to offer condolences or, worse, to hit on her because she looked like easy prey. She just wanted to disappear. He stopped at her table, and up close he was even more striking. Tall, over 6 feet, broad shoulders. Hands that looked like they'd actually worked for a living, not just signed documents and shaken hands at business meetings. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice low and surprisingly gentle. "I don't mean to intrude, but I couldn't help noticing that you've been sitting alone for a while, and you look like you could use some company, or like you'd rather be left alone. I honestly can't tell which, and I'll leave if you want me to, but—" He paused, ran a hand through his hair, and Lena realized he was nervous, actually nervous. "I'm making this worse. I'm going to stop talking now." Despite everything, the humiliation, the anger, the bone-deep exhaustion, Lena felt her lips twitch, almost a smile. "You're not a serial killer, are you?" "Not that I know of." He gestured to the empty chair across from her. "May I?" She should say no, should tell him she was fine, that she was leaving, that she didn't need rescue or charity or whatever this was. But she heard herself say, Sure. He sat down, and immediately the table felt different, smaller, more alive. He had presence, this stranger, the kind that made the air around him seem charged. I'm Adrian, he said, extending his hand. Lena. His grip was firm, warm, steady. She pulled her hand back quickly. So, Lena. Adrian leaned back in his chair, studying her with those two-seeing eyes. Bad date or stood up entirely? Does it matter? Stood up, he decided. You've been checking your phone every 30 seconds, and you have that look. What look? Like you're trying to decide whether to be angry or sad, and you're pissed off that you can't just be angry. Lena stared at him. Do you make a habit of psychoanalyzing strangers? Only the ones sitting alone in overpriced Italian restaurants looking like they want to set the world on fire. I don't want to set the world on fire. No? He signaled to the waiter, who appeared immediately, faster than he'd come for Lena, she noticed. Just yourself, then. Maybe. Adrian ordered another whiskey, and without asking, a glass of wine for Lena. Red. When she started to protest, he held up a hand. If you hate it, you don't have to drink it, but you look like you could use it. I look that bad? You look like someone who got hurt tonight and is trying very hard not to show it. The accuracy of that statement knocked something loose in Lena's chest. She looked away, blinking hard again. I don't know you. Exactly. Which means you can be honest. I'm a stranger. After tonight, you'll probably never see me again. No consequences, no judgment. He paused as the waiter set down their drinks. What happened? And maybe it was the wine, or maybe it was the exhaustion, or maybe it was the simple fact that he was right. He was a stranger, and strangers were safe. But Lena found herself talking. Blind date? Set up by a friend. Guy named Elliot. We were supposed to meet here at 7. At 6:45, he texted to cancel. Said I wasn't his type. She took a sip of wine. It was good. Too good. The kind she couldn't normally afford. The pathetic part is I don't even know what that means. We'd never met. He made that decision based on what? My profile picture? Something I said in a text message? I don't... She stopped herself. Sorry, you didn't ask for my life story. I asked what happened, Adrian said. That's what happened. And for the record, he's an idiot. You don't know that. I know he stood up a beautiful woman without even having the decency to do it face to face. That makes him an idiot and a coward. Beautiful. The word landed like a stone in still water, rippling outward. Lena wasn't beautiful. She was average, passable. The kind of woman who looked fine in good lighting but would never turn heads. You don't have to do that, she said quietly. Do what? Lie to make me feel better. Adrian's expression shifted, something harder coming into his eyes, something almost offended. I don't lie. Ever. It's one of my few consistent principles. He took a drink. You want to know what I see when I look at you? Not really. He ignored her. I see someone who showed up, who got dressed, who came to this restaurant, who waited, even after she knew she'd been stood up. Someone who has the kind of strength most people never develop because they've never had to. Someone who's been hurt enough times to expect it, but still hopes anyway. He leaned forward. That's not average, Lena. That's rare. She didn't know what to say to that, didn't know how to process the intensity of his gaze, or the strange, unexpected kindness of his words. Why are you here? She asked instead. At the bar. Alone. Adrian sat back and something shuddered in his expression. Same reason as you, probably. Bad habit of hoping things might be different. You were stood up too? In a manner of speaking. He swirled his whiskey, watching the amber liquid catch the light. I was supposed to meet someone. Business dinner. They canceled last minute. I decided to stay anyway because going home felt worse. Where's home? Depends on the day. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I travel a lot for work. Hotels start to feel the same after a while. Sometimes I can't remember what city I'm in. That sounds lonely. It is. He said it simply, without self-pity. Just a fact. But loneliness is relative, isn't it? You can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. Or you can be by yourself and feel fine. Which are you? Usually, alone but fine. Tonight? He met her eyes. Alone and tired of it. The honesty in that admission cracked something open between them. A recognition. like looking into a mirror and seeing not your reflection, but your truth. I'm a kindergarten teacher, Lena said, though she wasn't sure why. Maybe because he'd given her something real, and she wanted to offer something real in return. 23 5-year-olds who think I know everything. I spend my days tying shoes and breaking up arguments over crayons and teaching them that words have power. She traced the rim of her wine glass. And then I come home to an empty apartment and realize I'm 30 years old and still don't have my life figured out. Who does? Everyone else, apparently. No. Adrian shook his head. Everyone else is just better at pretending. Trust me. I've met enough people to know. We're all just making it up as we go along. Even you? Especially me. He paused. You want to know a secret? Sure. I have a 5-year-old daughter. Her name is Emma. She's the most incredible person I've ever met. Smart, funny, completely fearless, and most days I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm terrified I'm screwing her up. That she'll grow up and realize her dad was just stumbling through, pretending to have answers. Lena felt something soften inside her. You're a single dad? Widower. My wife died 3 years ago. Car accident. He said it matter-of-factly, but Lena could hear the weight beneath the words, the grief that never quite went away. I'm so sorry. Me too. He took a drink. Emma doesn't remember her. She was too young. Sometimes I don't know if that makes it better or worse. Both, probably. Yeah, both. He looked at her, really looked at her. You're good at this. At what? Listening, not trying to fix things, just being present. Occupational hazard. 5-year-olds require a lot of listening. Adrian smiled, a real smile this time, one that transformed his entire face. I bet you're a great teacher. I try. Lena felt herself relaxing for the first time all evening, the knot in her chest slowly unwinding. It's not glamorous, the pay is terrible. But when a kid finally understands something they've been struggling with, when they light up because they just learned to read a new word, she shrugged. It matters. I matter to them, you know, even if I don't matter anywhere else. You matter, Adrian said quietly. You just haven't met the right people yet who realize it. Maybe I'm not supposed to. Maybe I'm just one of those people who's meant to be alone. Do you believe that? Lena thought about it, really thought about it. I don't know. Most days, no. Tonight? She looked around the restaurant, at all the couples, at all the people who'd found each other. Tonight, yeah, maybe I do. Well, you're wrong. You can't know that. I can know that anyone who would stand you up without even meeting you first is missing out on someone extraordinary. And I can know that you're sitting here talking to a complete stranger, being honest and real and vulnerable, which most people can't do, even with people they've known for years. That's not someone meant to be alone, Lena. That's someone worth knowing. The conviction in his voice made her throat tight again. She picked up her wine glass to have something to do with her hands. You're very good at this. At what? Making people feel seen. I'm just telling you what I observe. Most people don't observe this much. Most people don't pay attention. He gestured around the restaurant. Everyone's so caught up in their own lives, their own dramas, their own problems. They miss what's right in front of them. The person sitting alone who needs someone to notice. The kid who's struggling but too proud to ask for help. He stopped himself. Sorry, I'm lecturing now. No, keep going. It's refreshing, actually. Most guys I meet want to talk about themselves. That's because most guys are idiots. Lena laughed. Actually laughed. The sound surprised her. Adrian grinned. There it is. What? The real you, not the version that's trying to hold it together, not the version that's hurt and angry and trying to pretend she's fine, the version that exists underneath all of that. How do you know that's the real me? Because real always sounds like relief. They talked for another hour, about everything and nothing. About Emma and her obsession with dinosaurs. About Lena's students and their constant, exhausting questions. About cities they'd been to and places they wanted to go. About books and movies and music and all the small things that make up a life. Adrian told her about growing up poor, about working 3 jobs to put himself through college, about the business he'd built from nothing. He didn't say what kind of business, just that it had grown beyond what he'd ever imagined, that success had come with costs he hadn't anticipated. Lena told him about her family, her parents who wanted her to be a lawyer like her older sister, who'd never quite understood why she'd chosen teaching, about feeling like she was always disappointing them, always falling short of some invisible standard. You're not, Adrian said. Falling short. You're just on a different path. Try telling them that. Maybe you should. Maybe. She finished her wine. This is strange, isn't it? That we're sitting here having this conversation. Strange how? I don't usually do this, talk to strangers, open up like this. Neither do I. Then why are we? Adrian was quiet for a moment, considering. Because sometimes you meet someone and the usual rules don't apply. Sometimes you just know. Know what? That it's safe. That you can be yourself. That the person across from you isn't going to judge you or try to fix you or pretend to be something they're not. He met her eyes. That's rare, Lena. When you find it, you don't question it. You just hold on. Her heart was beating too fast again, but this time it wasn't from humiliation or fear. It was something else. Something she couldn't quite name. The waiter approached their table. Can I get you anything else? Dessert, maybe? Adrian looked at Lena. Hungry? She should say no, should end this night, go home, process everything that had happened. But she heard herself say, starving, actually. They ordered food, real food, not just appetizers, pasta for her, steak for him. The restaurant was starting to empty out, the late dinner crowd giving way to the bar scene, but they stayed, kept talking, kept discovering all the small ways they understood each other. It was close to midnight when Adrian finally leaned back in his chair and said, I should let you go. You probably have to work tomorrow. Saturday, Lena said. Teacher work day, but not until the afternoon. Still, it's late. Yeah. But neither of them moved. Finally, Adrian pulled out his wallet, a worn leather thing that looked like it had been through wars, and set down cash on the table. More cash than Lena had ever seen anyone use for a restaurant bill. Her eyes widened. Adrian, don't worry about it. That has to be at least $300. Probably. He stood, extended his hand to help her up. His palm was warm against hers. Considerate payment for the company. You don't have to. I wanted to. They walked out together, into the cool night air. The street was quiet, just a few cars passing, a couple stumbling out of a bar down the block, laughing. Lena wrapped her arms around herself. She'd forgotten her jacket. Without a word, Adrian shrugged off his own jacket and draped it over her shoulders. It smelled like him, something clean and sharp, like cedar and rain. I can't take your jacket. You can give it back when you see me again. She stopped. Adrian, he stepped closer, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. I know this is fast. I know we just met. I know every logical part of your brain is telling you this is crazy. He paused. But I need you to know something. What? I'm not looking for casual. I'm not looking for, let's see where this goes, or maybe we'll grab coffee sometime. I've done that. It doesn't work. It's just two people wasting each other's time, pretending they might want the same things when they know they don't. Lena's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying that in the past 3 hours, I've felt more alive, more present, more myself than I have in 3 years. I'm saying that you make me want to believe in possibilities again. I'm saying... He ran his hand through his hair, frustrated with himself. I'm saying this badly. I'm saying that I know it's too soon and too much and you probably think I'm insane, but I need to be honest with you because I'm too old and too tired to play games. Honest about what? Adrian looked at her, his eyes intense in the streetlight. I could fall for you, Lena Carter. Hard, fast, in ways that would probably terrify both of us. And I think maybe you could fall for me too, if you let yourself. The world seemed to stop. Cars faded, noise faded, everything faded except this man standing in front of her, offering something she'd stopped believing was possible. You don't know me, she whispered. I know enough. I know you're kind. I know you're resilient. I know you see people, really see them, which is rarer than you think. I know you've been hurt, but you haven't let it make you cruel. I know... He stopped himself. I know I sound crazy. I know I do. But crazy is better than numb, and I've been numb for 3 years. Adrian, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know, so that if I ask to see you again, you understand what I'm asking for. Not a casual date, not a maybe. Something real. Lena couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her entire world had narrowed to this moment, this man, this impossible offer. I have to go, she said, and watched his face fall. But she pulled out her phone with shaking hands. Give me your number. Hope flickered across his features. He rattled off the digits. She typed them in, saved the contact. Then, before she could second-guess herself, she sent him a text. This is Lena, in case you want to be insane together. His phone buzzed. He looked at it, and when he looked back at her, he was smiling. Tomorrow, he said. Can I see you tomorrow? I work until 3. After 3, then. I'll pick you up. You don't know where I live. Text me the address. Adrian? Or don't. Just tell me where to meet you. A coffee shop, a park, wherever you feel safe. Lincoln Park, she heard herself say. There's a bench by the fountain, 4 o'clock. I'll be there. They stood there for another moment, neither wanting to leave. Finally, Lena stepped back, pulling his jacket tighter around her shoulders. Keep it, Adrian said when she started to shrug it off. I meant what I said. You can give it back when you see me again. That's presumptuous. That's optimistic. He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers barely grazing her skin. Good night, Lena. Good night. She walked away, forcing herself not to look back, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her chest. She made it half a block before she pulled out her phone and looked at the contact she'd just saved. Adrian. No last name, no context, just Adrian. And somehow, that felt right. Her phone buzzed. A text from him. Already counting down the hours. She smiled, typed back, That's definitely crazy. His response was immediate. Told you. But you're still going to show up tomorrow, aren't you? She shouldn't. She should be smart about this. Cautious, protected. But she typed, Yes, good. Sleep well, Lena Carter. You too. She walked the rest of the way to her apartment in a daze, still wearing his jacket, still feeling the ghost of his fingers against her skin. When she got home, she didn't turn on the lights, just stood in the darkness, trying to process what had just happened. Tonight had started with humiliation, with being stood up, being rejected, being told she wasn't good enough, and it had ended with a man who looked at her like she was exactly what he'd been searching for. It didn't make sense. It was too fast, too intense, too much. But standing alone in her apartment, surrounded by silence, Lena realized something. She didn't care. For the first time in her life, she was going to stop being careful. Stop protecting herself. Stop expecting the worst. She was going to show up at that park tomorrow. And she was going to see what happened when 2 broken people decided to stop being afraid. Lena didn't sleep. She tried. Climbed into bed at 1 in the morning, set her alarm, closed her eyes. But every time she started to drift off, her mind replayed the evening. Adrian's voice, the way he'd looked at her, the impossible things he'd said. By 3 a.m., she'd given up and was sitting on her couch, still wearing his jacket, drinking tea that had gone cold an hour ago. Her phone sat on the coffee table, screen dark. No new messages. She'd checked 14 times. Not that she was counting. This was ridiculous. She was 30 years old, not some teenager obsessing over a boy. But her hands were shaking and her stomach felt like it was full of birds, and she couldn't stop replaying his words. I could fall for you, Lena Carter. Hard, fast. At 5 a.m., her phone buzzed. She lunged for it. Adrian, can't sleep. Keep thinking about tomorrow. Tell me you haven't changed your mind. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. I haven't. You? Not a chance. Fair warning, though, I'm going to be terrible company until 4 o'clock. Already driving Emma crazy. She's awake at 5 in the morning? Early riser, like her mother was, currently making me play dinosaurs. Lena smiled despite her exhaustion. Which dinosaur are you? T-Rex. Always T-Rex. Emma says I have the arms for it. She laughed out loud in her empty apartment. That's adorable. That's humbling. Nothing keeps your ego in check like a 5-year-old critiquing your dinosaur impression. They texted back and forth for the next hour. Easy conversation, the kind that felt like breathing. He told her about Emma's obsession with paleontology, how she corrected adults at museums, how she'd announced last week that she wanted to be a dinosaur doctor when she grew up. Lena told him about her students, about the little boy who'd finally learned to tie his shoes after 3 months of practice, about the girl who wrote stories during free time that were better than anything Lena had read in published children's books. At 6:30, Adrian sent, I should let you sleep, but I'm glad you were awake. Me too. See you at 4, Lena Carter. See you at 4. She finally fell asleep around 7, still wearing his jacket, her phone clutched in her hand. The alarm went off at noon. Lena jolted awake, disoriented and panicked until she remembered Saturday. Teacher workday at 2. Park at 4. Adrian. She showered, standing under the hot water longer than necessary, trying to calm her racing thoughts. This was insane. She knew it was insane. You didn't meet someone at a restaurant and decide 12 hours later that you were going to risk everything. Except apparently she did. The teacher workday was torture. Lena sat through meetings about curriculum changes and standardized testing protocols, nodding in the right places, taking notes she'd never look at again. Her colleague Jennifer kept giving her strange looks. "You okay?" Jennifer whispered during a particularly boring presentation about new reading assessment tools. "You seem distracted." "I'm fine." "You check your phone every 5 minutes." "I'm expecting a message." Jennifer's eyebrows shot up. "From who? You never get messages during work." "It's nothing." "Lena Carter, are you seeing someone?" "No, maybe. I don't know." Lena rubbed her temples. "I met someone last night. And I'm meeting him again today." "That's great. Why do you look like you're about to throw up?" "Because it's complicated." "It's always complicated." Jennifer grinned. "That's what makes it interesting. What's his name?" "Adrian." "What does he do?" Lena realized she had no idea. He'd said he had a business, that he traveled, but he'd never specified. "I don't actually know." "Where does he live?" "He didn't say." "Okay, so you know his name and literally nothing else?" "I know he's a widower. I know he has a 5-year-old daughter. I know he's kind and honest, and he looks at me like I matter." Jennifer's expression softened. "That's more than most people know after a first date." "It wasn't a date. I got stood up. He happened to be there." "Even better. Organic. Unplanned. Those are the best kind. Or the most dangerous kind. Maybe both." Jennifer squeezed her arm. "Just be careful, okay? But also, live a little. You're always so guarded, Lena. Maybe this guy is worth the risk." Maybe he was. Maybe he wasn't. Lena wouldn't know until she showed up. The meeting finally ended at 3:15. Lena practically ran to her car, drove home, changed clothes 3 times before settling on jeans and a simple white blouse, then changed again because that felt too formal, then changed back because casual felt like she wasn't trying. She settled on the jeans and blouse, added a light jacket, not his, which was hanging carefully on the back of her door, and checked her reflection in the mirror. She looked terrified. Her phone buzzed. "Adrian. Leaving now. See you soon." Her heart hammered. This was real. This was happening. She grabbed her keys, her purse, checked the mirror one more time, and headed out. Lincoln Park was a 15-minute walk from her apartment. She could have driven, but she needed the time to think, to prepare, to remind herself that this was just coffee, just conversation, just 2 people getting to know each other. Except it wasn't. Adrian had made that clear. This wasn't casual. This was something else entirely. She reached the park at 3:55. The fountain was in the center, surrounded by benches. Only one was occupied, an elderly woman feeding pigeons. No sign of Adrian yet. Lena sat on an empty bench, clasped her hands in her lap to keep them from shaking, and waited. 4 o'clock came and went. At 4:05, doubt crept in. Maybe he'd changed his mind. Maybe last night had been the whiskey talking. Maybe in the daylight, with distance and perspective, he'd realized this was a terrible idea. At 4:07, she saw him. He was walking across the grass, hands in his pockets, dressed in the same dark jeans and a different shirt, gray this time. He saw her and his entire face changed, lighting up in a way that made her chest tight. "I'm late," he said when he reached her. "I'm sorry. Emma had a meltdown about her shoes, and then we couldn't find her favorite dinosaur, and—" He stopped himself, laughing. "You don't need the play-by-play of my Saturday morning chaos." "I don't mind." Lena stood. They were close enough to touch, but didn't. The air between them felt electric. "Where is she now?" "With my sister. Anna offered to take her for the afternoon, which never happened, so I didn't ask questions." He studied her face. "You look beautiful. You said you don't lie." "I don't." "Then you need glasses." "Lena." He stepped closer. "Take the compliment." She looked away, heat flooding her cheeks. "This is strange, isn't it? Being here, doing this." "Terrifying," he agreed. "Want to walk?" They fell into step beside each other, moving along the path that wound through the park. For a few minutes, neither spoke. Lena was hyper-aware of him, the way he moved, the space between their bodies, the occasional brush of his arm against hers. "I didn't think you'd actually come," Adrian said finally. "I didn't think you would either." "Why not?" "Because people say things at night, in the moment, when they're caught up in emotion, and then morning comes and reality sets in and nothing," he interrupted. "I meant every word I said last night. If anything, I meant it more after I went home and couldn't stop thinking about you." Lena's breath caught. "You can't just say things like that." "Why not?" "Because it's too much, too fast. We don't know each other." "Then let's fix that." Adrian stopped walking, turned to face her. "Ask me anything, anything you want to know. I'll answer honestly." "Anything?" "Anything." Lena thought about it. There were 1,000 questions she should ask, practical ones, sensible ones. But what came out was, "What did your wife's name?" Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe. Or memory. Sarah, her name was Sarah. What was she like? Brilliant, stubborn, had a laugh that could fill a room. She was an architect, loved designing spaces, creating beauty out of nothing. We met in college. Got married too young, probably. Had Emma even younger. She always said, his voice cracked slightly, she always said we'd have more kids someday. That Emma needed siblings. We kept putting it off. Work was busy, life was chaotic. We figured we had time. And then you didn't. And then we didn't. He started walking again, slower this time. The accident was sudden. She was driving home from a site visit. Drunk driver ran a red light. She died before the ambulance arrived. Adrian, Don't. Please don't apologize. Everyone apologizes and it doesn't help and I hate it. He ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. "I'm sorry. That came out harsh." "It's okay." "It's not. You're just trying to be kind and I'm being an ass." "You're being honest. There's a difference." He looked at her, really looked at her. "How are you this understanding?" "I'm not. I'm just listening." Most people don't. They walked in silence for a while. Lena watched children playing on the playground, their laughter carrying across the grass. She thought about Sarah, about Adrian, about Emma growing up without her mother. "Can I ask you something?" Adrian said. "Of course." "Why did you really come today? And I want the honest answer, not the polite one." Lena considered lying, considered saying something safe. But he'd been honest with her, so she owed him the same. "Because I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of protecting myself so carefully that I never actually let anyone in. I'm tired of going through life half awake, just existing instead of living." She paused. "And because when you looked at me last night, I felt something I haven't felt in years, maybe ever. And I thought, what if I'm brave enough to see where this goes?" "Brave or crazy?" "Both, probably," Adrian smiled. "I can work with both." They found another bench, this one overlooking a small pond where ducks paddled lazily. They sat, and this time when their shoulders brushed, neither pulled away. "Tell me about your family," Adrian said. "Your parents, siblings." "One sister, Rachel. She's a lawyer in New York. Married, 2 kids, perfect life. My parents are retired, used to be professors. They live in Connecticut now. We're not close." "Why not?" "Because I'm the disappointment." Lena picked at a thread on her jeans. "Rachel did everything right. Good grades, good school, good career, good marriage. I became a teacher, which in their minds is a waste of potential. My dad still asks when I'm going to apply to law school. My mom keeps sending me articles about the benefits of graduate education." They sound awful. They're not. They have expectations, and I keep failing to meet them. Or maybe their expectations are wrong. Maybe. Lena watched the ducks. "Do your parents live nearby?" "My dad died when I was 12. Heart attack. My mom remarried a few years later, moved to Florida. We talk sometimes. Not often." He stretched his legs out. "I have one sister, Anna, the one who's watching Emma today. She's younger than me by 8 years. We're close. She's one of the few people who understood after Sarah died, who didn't try to fix me or tell me it would get better. She just showed up." "She sounds wonderful." "She is. Stubborn as hell, but wonderful." A comfortable silence settled between them. Lena felt herself relaxing, the nervous energy from earlier dissipating. This felt natural, easy, like they'd been sitting on park benches together for years instead of hours. What kind of business do you run? She asked. You never said. Adrian hesitated. It's complicated. I can handle complicated. Real estate development, commercial properties mostly. I buy buildings, renovate them, lease them out. Started small, one property, then two. Then it snowballed. Now I have. He stopped. More than I know what to do with, honestly. That sounds successful. It is. Too successful sometimes. It takes up more time than I want it to. Emma deserves a dad who's present, not one who's constantly on his phone dealing with contractors and tenants and investors. So why do you keep doing it? Because I don't know how to stop. Because it's what I'm good at. Because... He paused. Because after Sarah died, work was the only thing that made sense. Grief doesn't make sense. Loss doesn't make sense. But numbers, contracts, those have rules. Those I can control. Lena understood that. The need for control when everything else felt chaotic. Do you like it, the work? I used to. Now it just feels like going through the motions. Like I'm building this empire for what? So Emma can inherit a bunch of buildings she doesn't care about. So I can die wealthy and alone? He shook his head. Sorry, that got dark. It's honest. You keep saying that because it's true. Most people spend their whole lives pretending they have it all figured out, pretending they're happy when they're not. I'd rather have honest than happy. What if you could have both? Can you? I don't know, but I'd like to find out. They sat there as the afternoon stretched toward evening, as the sun moved lower in the sky and the park started to empty out. They talked about everything, childhoods and regrets, dreams they'd abandoned and ones they still held on to. Adrian told her about Emma's latest obsession with space, how she'd announced she wanted to be an astronaut paleontologist. Lena told him about the student who'd given her a rock as a present because it was pretty like Miss Carter. At some point, Adrian's hand found hers, just resting there, fingers intertwined, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I should probably get back, he said eventually. Anna can only handle Emma in limited doses. Okay, but neither of them moved. Can I see you tomorrow? Adrian asked. I have papers to grade, lesson plans to write. Monday? I teach until 3:30. After? Lena knew she should slow this down, should create space, maintain boundaries, protect herself. But she heard herself say, after would be good. Dinner? Sure. I'll pick you up. 6 o'clock? You still don't know where I live. So tell me. She did. Rattled off her address like it was nothing, like she hadn't spent years being careful about who she let into her space, her life. Adrian stood, pulling her up with him. They faced each other in the fading light, and Lena was struck again by how tall he was, how solid, how real. I'm going to kiss you, he said quietly, if that's okay. Her heart stopped. Okay. He leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away. But she didn't. His lips brushed hers, soft and careful, like she was something precious. The kiss lasted only a moment, but when he pulled back, Lena felt like the world had shifted. I'll see you Monday, Adrian said, his voice rough. Monday, she echoed. He walked away, and Lena stood there watching him go, her fingers pressed against her lips, her entire body humming with something she couldn't name. Her phone buzzed. Adrian. Already miss you. Is that pathetic? She smiled, typed back. Completely pathetic. Me too. Good, at least we're pathetic together. Lena walked home in a daze. When she got to her apartment, she collapsed on the couch and stared at the ceiling, trying to process everything. This was happening too fast. She knew it was too fast, but maybe fast wasn't always bad. Maybe sometimes you met someone and you just knew. Her phone rang. Rachel's name flashed on the screen. Lena answered. Hey. So? Rachel's voice was bright with curiosity. How was the blind date? You never texted me back. Was he awful? Please tell me he was awful so I feel better about my terrible matchmaking skills. He stood me up. Oh, Lena, I'm so sorry. Elliot seemed so great on paper. I really thought about. But I met someone else. Silence. Then, what? At the restaurant. There was this man at the bar and we started talking and Lena stopped. How did you explain Adrian? How did you put into words the way he'd looked at her, the things he'd said? The impossible feeling that everything had changed. And? Rachel prompted. And I'm seeing him again, tomorrow. I mean, Monday. Lena Carter, did you pick up a random stranger at a restaurant? I didn't pick him up. He sat down at my table. We talked. For how long? 3 hours, maybe 4. And then? And then we met again today, at the park. We talked more. What's his name? Adrian. What does he do? Real estate development. Is he married? Widowed. He has a 5-year-old daughter. More silence. Then carefully, Lena, this sounds intense. It is. Are you sure that's a good idea? You just met him. You don't know anything about him. I know enough. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, this sounds like a recipe for disaster. You're vulnerable right now. You were just stood up. You're not thinking clearly. Lena felt anger flare. I'm 30 years old, Rachel. I'm not some naive kid who needs protection. I know. I just don't want you to get hurt. I've been careful my entire life. I've protected myself. I've been sensible. I've made all the right choices. And where has that gotten me? Alone. Stood up, wondering if I'm ever going to be someone's first choice instead of their backup plan. You're not a backup plan. Then why does it feel like that? Lena's voice cracked. Why do I feel like I'm always the one people settle for? The one who's good enough but never quite enough? Lena. Adrian doesn't make me feel like that. He looks at me like I'm exactly what he wants. Not someone he's settling for. Not someone who'll do. Like I'm the person he's been looking for. And you believe him? I want to. For once in my life, I want to believe that someone sees me and chooses me and means it. Rachel sighed. Okay. Okay, I hear you. Just promise me you'll be careful, that you won't rush into anything. I promise. But even as she said it, Lena knew it was a lie. She was already rushing, already falling, already in too deep to stop. They talked for a few more minutes, then said goodbye. Lena set her phone down and looked around her apartment. At the secondhand furniture, the student artwork on her fridge, the pile of papers she needed to grade, her small, safe, carefully constructed life. And she thought about Adrian, about the way he'd kissed her, about the impossible things he'd said, about the possibility that maybe, just maybe, being careful was overrated. Sunday passed in a blur. Lena graded papers, wrote lesson plans, did laundry. Normal things. But her mind kept wandering to Monday, to 6 o'clock, to Adrian. They texted throughout the day. Nothing profound, just small updates. Adrian sent a picture of Emma covered in spaghetti sauce, captioned, "This is my life now." Lena sent back a photo of the stack of papers she was grading. "This is mine. Want to trade? Absolutely not. I've seen what spaghetti sauce does to white shirts." Fair point. That night, as Lena was getting ready for bed, her phone rang. Adrian's name on the screen made her pulse jump. "Hey," she answered. "Hey, I know it's late. I just wanted to hear your voice." Something warm spread through her chest. "It's not that late. Emma just went down. She fought bedtime for an hour. I'm exhausted." "Why did you call then? You should sleep." "Because talking to you is better than sleep." Lena smiled, curling up on her couch. "That's the exhaustion talking. It's the truth talking." She heard rustling, like he was settling into a chair. "Tell me about your day." "Grading papers. Exciting stuff." "What kind of papers?" "Spelling tests. My kids are working on digraphs right now. It's painful." "What's a digraph?" 2 letters that make one sound, like sh or esh. "And that's hard?" "For 5-year-olds, extremely. They want every letter to make its own sound. The idea that C and H together make a completely different sound breaks their tiny brains." Adrian laughed. "Emma would love your class." "You think?" "She loves learning, asks a million questions about everything. Drives me crazy sometimes, but..." His voice softened. "She's amazing, Lena. You'd like her." "I'm sure I would." "Do you want kids, someday?" The question caught her off guard. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I work with them every day, so I know what I'd be getting into. But yes, eventually." "Good." "Why good?" "Because I can't have more kids with someone who doesn't want them. Emma needs..." He stopped. "Sorry, That's too much, too fast. I keep doing this. No. Lena sat up straighter. Don't apologize. I like that you say what you're thinking. Even when it's crazy. Especially then. They talked for another hour about books they'd read, movies they loved, places they wanted to travel. Adrian told her about a trip he'd taken to Japan before Emma was born, how he'd gotten lost in Tokyo and ended up having the best sushi of his life in a tiny restaurant he couldn't find again. Lena told him about the summer she'd spent teaching English in Costa Rica, how she'd fallen in love with the country but couldn't afford to go back. We should go, Adrian said suddenly. What? To Costa Rica. You and me. Someday. Adrian, I know, too fast, but I'm serious. Life's too short to not do the things you want to do with the people you want to do them with. Lena's throat tightened. You barely know me. I know enough to know I want to know more. Is that so crazy? Yes. But you're still going to see me tomorrow? Yes. Then we're both crazy. I can live with that. They finally said goodnight around midnight. Lena lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. This was insane. She was falling for a man she'd known for less than 48 hours. A man with a child, with a complicated past, with a life she knew almost nothing about. But when she closed her eyes, all she could see was the way he'd looked at her in the park, the way he'd kissed her like she was something precious, the way he made her feel like maybe, finally, she was someone's first choice. Monday morning came too slowly and too fast. Lena's students were extra chaotic. 2 fights over crayons, 1 bathroom accident, and a minor crisis when someone's pet goldfish died over the weekend. By the time 3:30 rolled around, she was exhausted and anxious and questioning everything. What was she doing? She should cancel, should tell Adrian this was moving too fast, that she needed space, that she couldn't do this. But at 6 o'clock, when she heard the knock on her door, all those doubts evaporated. She opened it, and there he was, holding flowers. Simple daisies, not roses, and looking nervous. Hi, he said. Hi. These are for you. I know flowers are cliché, but Emma insisted. She said you can't go on a date without flowers. Emma knows about me? She knows I'm having dinner with someone special. I didn't want to lie to her. Special. The word settled into Lena's chest, warm and terrifying. They're beautiful, she said, taking the flowers. Come in. I just need to put these in water. Adrian stepped into her apartment, and Lena saw it through his eyes, small, cramped, nothing special. But he didn't seem to notice. He was looking at the student artwork on her walls, the photos scattered on her bookshelf. Your place is nice, he said. Feels like you. It's tiny. It's home. She found a vase, filled it with water, arranged the flowers. Her hands were shaking. Lena. Adrian's voice was soft. She turned, and he was right there, close enough to touch. Are you okay? I'm nervous. Me too. You don't seem nervous. I'm very good at faking confidence. He smiled. It's a business skill. What happens if this doesn't work? The question burst out before she could stop it. What happens if we try this and it falls apart and I get hurt? Then you get hurt, Adrian said simply. And it sucks. And you recover, and you move on. But what happens if it does work? What happens if we're both brave enough to try and it turns out we're exactly what the other person needed? That seems unlikely. Maybe. But unlikely isn't impossible. He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I'm willing to risk unlikely. Are you? Lena looked at him, really looked at him, at the hope in his eyes, the vulnerability he wasn't trying to hide. And she made a choice. Yes, she said. I am. Adrian took her to a small Italian place on the east side, the kind of restaurant that didn't advertise, where the owner greeted regulars by name and the menu was handwritten on a chalkboard. Nothing like Marcello's with its forced romance and calculated ambiance. This place felt lived in, real. I come here with Emma sometimes, Adrian said as they settled into a corner booth. Marco, the owner, keeps crayons behind the counter for her. She draws him dinosaurs and he puts them on the fridge. That's sweet. She's going to want to meet you, eventually. She's already asking questions. Lena's stomach flipped. What kind of questions? Why I'm smiling at my phone, why I bought flowers. 5-year-olds are observant. He paused, studying her face. Is that okay? That she knows about you? I don't know. Maybe. It's just, What if this doesn't work out? What if she gets attached and then I disappear? Then she learns that sometimes people leave, which is a lesson she's already had to learn the hard way. Adrian's voice was steady, but sad. I'm not going to hide my life from her, Lena. I did that for a year after Sarah died, pretended everything was fine, put on a brave face, kept my grief locked away where she couldn't see it. You know what happened? She started having nightmares, started acting out at school. Her therapist said kids know when you're lying to them, even if they can't articulate it. She's in therapy? We both are. Family therapy mostly. It helps. He took a sip of water. I'm not ashamed of that, by the way, getting help. Some people think it makes you weak, but I think it makes you smart. I don't think it makes you weak. Good. Because I'm going to need you to understand that I'm not perfect. I'm doing my best with Emma, but I screw up constantly. I lose my patience. I let her watch too much TV when I'm tired. I forget to pack her lunch and have to turn around halfway to school. I'm figuring this out as I go. You're a single dad. You're allowed to be imperfect. Are you? Allowed to be imperfect? The question caught her off guard. What do you mean? I mean, you hold yourself to impossible standards. I can see it. The way you talk about your job, your family, your life, like you're constantly trying to prove something. I'm not. You are. He leaned forward. And I need you to know that you don't have to do that with me. You don't have to be perfect or impressive or anything other than exactly who you are. Lena looked down at her hands. What if who I am isn't enough? It will be. It already is. The waiter appeared. Marco himself, a burly man in his 60s with flour in his hair and a smile that crinkled his whole face. Adrian, where's my little artist? Home with my sister. Marco, this is Lena. Marco's eyebrows shot up. Lena, so you're the one. Adrian hasn't shut up about you all week. Marco, what? I'm just saying, you come in here Saturday morning, you're checking your phone every 2 seconds, you're smiling like an idiot. We're ready to order, Adrian interrupted, his ears going red. Marco winked at Lena. He's nervous. That's a good sign. Means he likes you. He pulled out his notepad. What can I get you? They ordered, pasta for both of them, wine that Marco insisted was on the house for the new couple, and settled into easy conversation. Adrian told her about Emma's latest school project, a diorama about the Mesozoic era that had taken over their entire dining room table. Lena told him about the parent-teacher conferences she had coming up, including one with a mother who'd already emailed 14 times about her son's spelling grade. 14? Adrian whistled. That's intense. That's nothing. Last year I had a dad who showed up at the school unannounced to argue about his daughter's participation grade in PE. The principal had to escort him out. Did he ever come back? Oh yeah, he's on the PTA now. We're friendly. He brings donuts to the meetings. Adrian laughed, and the sound filled something in Lena's chest she hadn't realized was empty. This felt normal, easy, like they'd been doing this for years instead of days. The food arrived, and they ate, and the conversation never stopped. They talked about everything and nothing, music they loved, books they'd hated, embarrassing childhood memories. Adrian told her about the time he'd tried to impress a girl in 8th grade by climbing a tree and ended up breaking his arm. Lena told him about failing her driver's test 3 times because she couldn't parallel park. 3 times? Adrian grinned. That's impressive. That's humiliating. My dad had to teach me in a parking lot for 2 months before I could pass. Can you parallel park now? Barely. I avoid it whenever possible. Good to know. I'll do the driving. The casual assumption in that statement that there would be future drives, future plans, made Lena's heart skip. She took a sip of wine to cover her reaction. What are you thinking? Adrian asked. That this is surreal, that I keep expecting to wake up and find out this is some elaborate dream. If it is, we're both having it, which is either romantic or deeply weird. Probably both. They finished dinner and Marco refused to let them pay for anything except the wine. You bring that beautiful girl back, he told Adrian. And next time bring Emma. I miss her dinosaurs. Outside, the night air was cool and clear. Adrian took Lena's hand like it was the most natural thing in the world, and they walked without any particular destination. Can I ask you something? Lena said after a few blocks. Always. Why me? You could have anyone. You're successful, you're kind, She gestured vaguely at him. You. Why are you wasting your time on a kindergarten teacher who can't parallel park and still uses a flip phone? You don't use a flip phone. I did until last year. My sister staged an intervention. Adrian stopped walking, turned to face her. You really don't see it, do you? See what? How incredible you are. How you light up when you talk about your students. How you listen, actually listen, when people talk, instead of just waiting for your turn to speak. How you're brave enough to be vulnerable, to admit when you're scared, to show up anyway. He cupped her face in his hands. I'm not wasting my time, Lena. I'm investing it in the first person in 3 years who's made me want to invest in anything other than work. Adrian, I know it's fast, I know it's crazy, I know all the logical reasons this shouldn't work, but I also know that life is short and unpredictable, and sometimes you meet someone who makes you remember what it feels like to be alive. You do that for me. Lena couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only stare at this man who said impossible things like they were simple truths. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too. What if I can't be what you need? What if you already are? He kissed her then, right there on the sidewalk, and it was different from the park, deeper, more certain, like a promise neither of them was quite ready to make, but couldn't stop themselves from offering anyway. When they pulled apart, Lena was shaking. I should go home. Okay. Will you walk me? Of course. They made it 3 blocks before Lena's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and groaned. It's my mother. I should... Take it, Adrian said. I'll wait. Lena answered, stepping slightly away. Hi, Mom. Lena, I've been trying to reach you all week. You never answer your phone. I've been busy. Busy with what? Rachel said you met someone. Is that true? Lena closed her eyes. Of course Rachel had told their mother. Yes. What's his name? What does he do? When can we meet him? Mom, it's new, really new. Can we not? Your father and I are coming into the city next weekend for the Hendersons' anniversary party. We should have dinner, the 4 of us. I don't think... Saturday night. I'll make a reservation at that French place you like, 7 o'clock. Don't be late. Mom, but she'd already hung up. Lena stared at her phone, a familiar knot of frustration and anxiety tightening in her chest. Adrian appeared at her elbow. Everything okay? My parents want to meet you, next weekend. My mom just decided without asking me if I was ready, or if you were available, or if this was even something I wanted. Do you? Want me to meet them? I don't know. Maybe. Eventually. But not next weekend. Not when we've barely... She stopped herself. They're going to judge you. Judge us. My dad's going to ask about your education and your career and your 5-year plan. My mom's going to comment on everything from your clothes to your posture, and they're both going to make it clear that I'm dating above my station and should be grateful anyone's interested. Above your station? You know what I mean. Adrian was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I'll go. You don't have to. I want to. If it's important to you, I want to meet them. It's not important to me. It's important to them. Then I'll go for you. To support you. Because sitting through an awkward dinner with judgmental parents is what you do when you care about someone. Lena felt tears prick her eyes. You barely know me, and you're already willing to subject yourself to my family? Are you insane? We've established that I am, yes. She laughed despite herself. They're going to eat you alive. I've survived worse. He pulled her close, pressed a kiss to her forehead. Besides, I want to meet the people who raised you, even if they don't appreciate what they've got. They walked the rest of the way to Lena's apartment in comfortable silence. At her door, Adrian hesitated. Can I see you tomorrow? He asked. You're not sick of me yet? Not even close. I have dinner plans with Jennifer, girls' night. But Wednesday? Wednesday's good. I'll cook. You can meet Emma. Lena's heart jumped. You want me to meet her? Only if you're ready, no pressure. What if she doesn't like me? She'll like you. You're a kindergarten teacher. You're professionally likable. That's not how it works. Then we'll find out together. He kissed her goodnight, soft and sweet. Sleep well, Lena. You too. She watched him walk away, then went inside and immediately called Jennifer. Emergency, she said when Jennifer picked up. I need wine and advice, and I need them now. 20 minutes later, they were sitting in Lena's living room, Jennifer with a bottle of cheap red, and Lena with her head in her hands. So let me get this straight, Jennifer said. You've known this guy for less than a week and you're already meeting his kid and having dinner with your parents? When you say it like that, it sounds insane. Because it is insane. Lena, you don't even know his last name. I do. It's Cole. Adrian Cole. Jennifer pulled out her phone and started typing. Let me Google him. Don't. Too late. Jennifer's eyes widened. Holy shit. What? Adrian Cole. Cole Properties. He's not just in real estate, Lena. He's a billionaire, like actual Forbes list billionaire. The room tilted. That's not possible. It's literally right here. Net worth estimated at $2.3 billion. He owns half the commercial real estate in the city. Jennifer scrolled through her phone. There's a whole article about him from last year. Widowed mogul balances business empire with single fatherhood. There's a picture of him at some charity gala. Lena grabbed the phone. There was Adrian wearing a tuxedo, looking uncomfortable in front of a backdrop covered in sponsor logos. The caption read, Real estate developer Adrian Cole, 32, has continued to expand his business empire while raising his daughter Emma, alone following the tragic death of his wife Sarah in 2023. He didn't tell you? Jennifer asked quietly. He said he did real estate development. He said he had buildings. He didn't say... Lena couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't process the number. Billion. With a B. Maybe he didn't think it mattered. How could it not matter? This changes everything. Does it? Of course it does. I thought we were the same, two regular people trying to figure things out. But he's not regular. She gestured at the phone. He's this. And I'm a teacher who makes $38,000 a year and lives in a studio apartment. So what? You like him. He likes you. The money doesn't change that. It changes everything. His world, my world, they don't overlap. What am I supposed to do? Show up to charity galas in my Target dress? Make small talk with millionaires about investments and markets I don't understand? You're catastrophizing. I'm being realistic. Lena paced her small living room. This is why he was so confident, so sure of himself. He's used to getting what he wants. He probably thinks I'm some charity project. Stop! Jennifer grabbed her shoulders. Listen to yourself. This is fear talking. You're looking for reasons to run because you're scared of getting hurt. I'm scared because this doesn't make sense. People like him don't end up with people like me. Well, why not? Because you decided there are rules? Because you think you're not good enough? Because I'm not... Bullshit. Jennifer's voice was sharp. You are good enough. You're smart and kind, and you care about people. The fact that you chose a career that matters instead of one that pays well doesn't make you less valuable. And if Adrian Cole can't see that, then he's an idiot. But from everything you've told me, he does see it. So maybe the question isn't whether you're good enough for him. Maybe it's whether you're brave enough to believe you are. Lena sank onto the couch. I don't know if I am. Then fake it until you figure it out. Jennifer poured more wine. Look, I'm not saying this isn't complicated. Money always complicates things. But you like him, right? The person, not the bank account? Yes. And he likes you? He says he does? Then try. Go to dinner on Wednesday. Meet his daughter. See what happens. And if it doesn't work out, at least you'll know you were brave enough to try. Lena took a long drink of wine. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just never listened to me. They talked for another hour, Jennifer pulling up more articles about Adrian, business deals, charity work, the occasional society page mention. There was a photo from 3 years ago, Adrian and Sarah at a museum fundraiser. She'd been beautiful, Lena noted with a pang. Tall and elegant, the kind of woman who belonged in that world. Stop comparing yourself, Jennifer said, watching her face. I'm not. You are. I can see it. But Sarah's gone and you're here. And for whatever reason, he chose you. He doesn't really know me yet. Then let him. Stop hiding behind your fears and let him actually see you. After Jennifer left, Lena sat alone with her laptop, reading everything she could find about Adrian Cole. Business profiles, interviews, speculation about his net worth and his company's expansion plans. There was surprisingly little about his personal life. He didn't do social media, rarely attended public events except for charity functions. One article from 6 months ago caught her attention. The headline read, Cole Properties founder discusses life after loss. She clicked through, found a quote that made her chest ache. I built this company thinking it would give my family security. But security doesn't mean anything when the people you're trying to protect aren't here to enjoy it. Now I'm building it for Emma, so she'll have choices, so she'll never feel trapped by circumstances. But mostly, I'm just trying to be present, to show up, to prove that even when everything falls apart, we can put ourselves back together. Lena read it 3 times. This was the man she'd met, not the billionaire, but the father, the person who understood loss and loneliness and the courage it took to keep going. Her phone buzzed. Adrian, I forgot to ask, how do you feel about dinosaurs? She smiled despite her anxiety. I teach kindergarten. I'm professionally required to love dinosaurs. Good, because Emma's planning to give you a full lecture on velociraptors. Fair warning, looking forward to it, liar. But I appreciate the effort. Who says I'm lying? Maybe I genuinely want to learn about velociraptors.
Do you even know what a velociraptor is? A dinosaur? Lena, a scary dinosaur with claws? You're going to get destroyed by a 5-year-old. I can't wait to watch. She laughed, and some of the tension in her chest eased. This was Adrian, the person who texted her about dinosaurs and worried about his daughter's bedtime. The money didn't change that. The empire didn't change that. Can I ask you something? She typed. Always. Why didn't you tell me about the money? The response took longer this time. Then, because I wanted you to know me first. Not my bank account. Not what I've built. Just me. Is that okay? Yes. But Adrian, I don't fit in your world. I don't want you to fit. I want you to be yourself. The world can adjust. That's not how the world works. And then maybe the world is wrong. Lena stared at that message for a long time. Then she typed, I'm scared. Me too. Let's be scared together. Deal. Wednesday evening arrived too fast and too slow. Lena changed clothes 4 times before settling on jeans and a sweater, casual, approachable, the kind of outfit a kindergarten teacher would wear. She debated bringing a gift for Emma, but Jennifer had talked her out of it. Don't try too hard, Jennifer had said. Kids can smell desperation. Just be yourself. Easy advice, impossible execution. Adrian lived in a brownstone in the historic district, the kind of building Lena had walked past 100 times, but never imagined actually entering. She stood on the sidewalk, staring up at it, trying to calm her racing heart. The door opened before she could knock. Emma stood there, small and fierce, with dark hair in 2 messy braids and eyes that were all Adrian. You're Lena, Emma announced. Dad said you were coming. He made me clean my room. I didn't want to, but he said it was important to make good impressions. Are you impressed? Very, Lena managed. Good. Come in. I'm going to tell you about dinosaurs. Emma, let her get inside first, Adrian called from somewhere deeper in the house. Emma rolled her eyes with all the drama of someone 3 times her age. Dads are so bossy. Come on. She grabbed Lena's hand and pulled her inside. The house was beautiful. Exposed brick, hardwood floors, high ceilings, but also clearly lived in. There were toys scattered across the floor, children's drawings on the fridge, a stack of picture books on the coffee table. Adrian appeared from the kitchen, wearing jeans and a t-shirt, an apron tied around his waist. Hi. Sorry, Emma got to you before I could. It's okay. Did you know, Emma interrupted, that velociraptors were actually only about the size of a turkey? Movies get it wrong. They weren't as big as people, but they were still really smart and really mean. I didn't know that, Lena said honestly. Most people don't. I'm teaching them. Emma pulled Lena toward the couch. Sit here. I'm going to get my models. She disappeared upstairs, leaving Lena and Adrian alone. She's amazing, Lena said. She's a hurricane. You'll get used to it. Adrian sat beside her, close enough that their knees touched. You okay? Terrified. She already likes you. She told me this morning that you had kind eyes, so you're in. What if I say something wrong? What if... Lena. He took her hand. Breathe. You teach 5-year-olds for a living. This is literally your job. This is different. Because it matters more? Yes. That's fair, but she's just a kid, a smart, opinionated, dinosaur-obsessed kid. Just be yourself. Emma thundered back down the stairs, arms full of plastic dinosaurs. Okay, so this one is a triceratops. This one is a stegosaurus. This one...
For the next 45 minutes, Lena received the most comprehensive dinosaur education of her life. Emma was thorough, passionate, and utterly convinced that Lena needed to understand the difference between the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods. Adrian watched from the kitchen, occasionally calling out corrections that Emma immediately disputed. Lena found herself relaxing, falling into the familiar rhythm of talking to children, asking questions, expressing genuine interest, letting Emma lead the conversation. "Dinner's ready," Adrian finally announced. "Emma, help Lena set the table." They ate spaghetti, Emma's choice, and talked about everything except the fact that this was a test. Emma told elaborate stories about her classmates, about the hermit crab in her classroom that she'd named Professor Snappy, about how she wanted to be a paleontologist but also maybe an astronaut. "You could do both," Lena suggested. "Study dinosaur fossils on other planets." Emma's eyes went wide. "Can you do that?" "I don't see why not. Science is always discovering new things." "Did you hear that, Dad? I can be a space paleontologist." "I heard." Adrian grinned at Lena. "You just made my life infinitely more complicated." After dinner, Emma insisted on showing Lena her room, an explosion of books and toys and glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. There were photos on the dresser. Lena spotted one of a beautiful woman holding a baby. "That's my mom," Emma said matter-of-factly. "She died when I was little. I don't remember her, but Dad says she loved dinosaurs too." "I'm sorry," Lena said softly. "It's okay. I'm not sad about it anymore. Dad says she's watching over us, but I think that's just something grown-ups say to make kids feel better." Emma picked up a stuffed T-Rex. "Do you like my dad?" The question caught Lena completely off guard. Yes, I do." "Good. He smiles more now, since he met you. He didn't smile much before." "He didn't?" "Not really. Aunt Anna says you're good for him. Are you going to be his girlfriend?" "I don't know, maybe." "You should. Then you could come over more and I could teach you about all the dinosaurs." "Emma!" Adrian appeared in the doorway. "Bedtime. Say goodnight to Lena." "But we were talking." "Bed. Now you have school tomorrow." Emma huffed, but hugged Lena anyway. "Will you come back?" "If you want me to." "I want you to. You're nice. And you actually listen instead of just pretending like most grown-ups." "That's because you're interesting," Emma beamed. "I know." After Emma was tucked in, Adrian and Lena sat on the couch, both exhausted. "She interrogated you," Adrian said. "I'm sorry. I liked it. She's honest. Most kids are." "Did you mean it? What you told her? About coming back?" "Yes, if that's okay." "More than okay." He pulled her close and Lena let herself lean against him, feeling the solid warmth of his body. "Thank you for tonight, for trying. I know this is a lot. It's worth it. Is it? Ask me again in a month." He laughed, pressed a kiss to her hair. They sat in comfortable silence until Lena finally said, "I should go. It's late." "Stay." Her heart stopped. "Adrian, not like that. I just mean, stay. Talk to me. I like having you here." So she stayed, and they talked until midnight, wrapped in each other on the couch. And when Adrian finally walked her to the door, when he kissed her goodnight with a tenderness that made her ache, Lena realized something terrifying. She was falling in love with him. Hard, fast, exactly like he'd predicted, and there was no going back now. The week passed in a blur of text messages and stolen moments. Adrian picked her up after work on Thursday, brought Emma along, and they got ice cream at the park. Friday, he called her at 11 at night just to hear her voice. Saturday morning, he showed up at her apartment with coffee and bagels, and they spent 2 hours talking about nothing important while Emma drew dinosaurs at Lena's kitchen table. It felt domestic, natural, like they'd been doing this for years instead of barely 2 weeks. And then Sunday came, and with it, the dinner with her parents. Lena changed clothes 6 times. Adrian arrived at 6:30, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, holding a bottle of wine that looked expensive. "You didn't have to dress up," Lena said, eyeing the suit nervously. "Your mom made reservations at Laurent's. Trust me, I had to dress up." He kissed her cheek. "You look beautiful, by the way." "I look terrified." "That too, but mostly beautiful." The drive to the restaurant was quiet. Lena's hands were shaking. Adrian reached over and took one, threading his fingers through hers.
It's going to be fine, he said. You don't know my parents. I know you. That's enough. Laurent's was the kind of restaurant where the prices weren't listed on the menu and the waiters looked down their noses at anyone who ordered wrong.
Lena's parents were already seated when they arrived. Her father in a crisp suit, her mother in pearls, both of them the picture of upper-middle-class respectability. Lena? Her mother stood, air-kissed both her cheeks. You're late. We're 5 minutes early, Mom. Exactly. Early is on time is late. Her mother turned to Adrian and Lena watched her do a quick assessment. Expensive suit, good posture, confident handshake. Passing the first test. You must be Adrian. I'm Catherine. This is my husband, Robert. Pleasure to meet you both. Adrian's voice was smooth, professional. The businessman, not the father who played dinosaurs on the living room floor. They sat, ordered drinks, made small talk about traffic and the weather and the restaurant's new chef. Lena felt like she was watching a performance, waiting for the moment it would all fall apart. So Adrian, her father said once their appetizers arrived, Lena tells us you're in real estate. What sort of properties? Commercial, mostly. Office buildings, retail spaces, some residential developments. Profitable field. It can be. And you're doing well? Her father's tone was casual, but Lena knew that tone. He was fishing. We're holding steady. Steady? Her mother dabbed her mouth with her napkin. How modest. Robert, didn't you read that article about coal properties last month, the expansion into the eastern markets? Adrian's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. That's my company, yes. I knew I recognized the name. Her mother smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You're that Adrian Cole, the billionaire. How interesting. Lena wanted to crawl under the table and disappear. I prefer not to discuss business at dinner, Adrian said smoothly. Mrs. Carter. Lena mentioned you used to teach literature. What was your specialty? Nice deflection, Lena thought, but her mother wasn't done. Victorian poetry. Though I gave it up years ago when I realized academia doesn't pay nearly as well as people think. She looked at Lena pointedly. Teaching is such a noble profession, just not a particularly lucrative one. Mom, what? I'm just stating facts. You work so hard, darling, and for what? $38,000 a year? No benefits to speak of? Meanwhile, your sister is making partner at her firm. I like my job, Lena said tightly. Of course you do. I'm not saying you don't. I'm just saying you had other options. You could have gone to law school. Could have done something more. She paused, searching for the word. Substantial. Teaching 23 children to read is substantial, Adrian said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. It's some of the most important work anyone can do. The fact that we don't pay teachers what they're worth says more about our society's priorities than it does about the value of the work itself. Lena's mother blinked. Well, yes, of course. I wasn't suggesting. You were suggesting that Lena's career is less important because it doesn't make money, which is exactly the kind of thinking that creates income inequality and undervalues essential workers. Adrian's voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. Lena chose a career that makes a difference, that takes courage and commitment. I admire that. The table went silent. Lena stared at Adrian, her heart pounding. Her father cleared his throat. Strong opinions, he said. I believe in speaking the truth, especially when someone I care about is being dismissed. I wasn't dismissing her. With respect, Mrs. Carter, you were. Maybe you didn't mean to, but you were. Adrian set down his fork. Lena is incredible at what she does. Her students adore her. She changes lives every single day. And if you can't see that, if all you can see is a salary that doesn't meet your standards, then you're missing the point entirely. Lena had never heard anyone defend her like that. Not to her parents, not to anyone. She felt tears prick her eyes and blinked them back furiously. Her mother's face had gone pale. I think you're overstepping. Maybe. But someone needed to say it. Adrian turned to Lena's father. Mr. Carter, I understand you're protective of your daughter, that you want the best for her. I respect that. But the best for her isn't someone who's going to dismiss her choices or make her feel like she's not enough. She is enough. She's more than enough. And I'm going to spend every day making sure she knows that. Robert Carter studied Adrian for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. You've got backbone. I'll give you that. I've got conviction. There's a difference. Is there? Backbone is standing up for yourself. Conviction is standing up for people you love, even when it's uncomfortable. And you love my daughter? Her father's tone was challenging. Adrian didn't hesitate. I'm getting there, yes. The answer hung in the air. Lena couldn't breathe, couldn't process what he'd just said in front of her parents in this expensive restaurant like it was the simplest thing in the world. Well, her mother said finally, this is quite the dinner conversation. You started it, Adrian said mildly. Despite herself, Lena laughed, a short, shocked sound that made everyone turn to look at her. Sorry, she managed. This is not how I thought this evening would go. How did you think it would go? Her father asked. I thought you'd interrogate him about his education and his intentions and whether he's good enough for me. I didn't think he'd end up defending my career choices. Someone had to, Adrian said. He took her hand under the table, squeezed it. Your parents love you. They want the best for you. We just disagree on what that looks like. And what do you think is best for my daughter? Catherine asked, her voice sharp. Happiness. Safety. Someone who sees her value and never makes her doubt it. Someone who shows up, someone who stays. Adrian met her mother's gaze steadily. I can be that person, if she'll let me. The rest of dinner was stilted but civil. They talked about safer topics. Emma's school, the weather, upcoming holidays. Lena barely tasted her food, too aware of Adrian beside her, of the way he'd stood up to her mother without flinching. When they finally left the restaurant, Lena's parents lingering by the valet stand, Catherine pulled her aside. He's intense, her mother said quietly. I know. Are you sure about this? It's very fast, Lena. You barely know him. I know enough. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, this looks like a man who's used to getting what he wants. And right now what he wants is you. But what happens when that changes? When the novelty wears off and he realizes you come from different worlds? Maybe we do come from different worlds, but maybe that doesn't matter as much as you think it does. Her mother sighed. I just don't want you to get hurt. I know, but being safe isn't the same as being happy, and I'm tired of choosing safe. Catherine studied her daughter's face, then nodded slowly. He does look at you like you hung the moon. I'll give him that. He does. Don't sound so surprised. You're remarkable, Lena. I know I don't say it enough. I know I push you toward things you don't want, but you are remarkable. And if he can see that, if he really can, then maybe I'm wrong about him. It was the closest to approval Lena had ever gotten from her mother. She hugged her quickly, fiercely, then went to find Adrian. He was standing by his car, talking to her father. Both men looked serious. Lena's stomach dropped. Everything okay? She asked, approaching cautiously. Fine, her father said. I was just telling Adrian that if he hurts you, I know people who know people. Dad, I'm joking, mostly. Robert turned to Adrian. Take care of her. I plan to. They shook hands, and then Lena's parents were leaving, and she and Adrian were alone in the parking lot. That was, Lena started, terrible, awkward, a complete disaster. I was going to say intense. Your mother hates me. She doesn't hate you, she's just protective, in her own controlling, judgmental way. Adrian leaned against his car. I probably shouldn't have gone off on her like that. Probably not, but Lena stepped closer. Thank you for defending me, for saying those things. No one's ever done that before. Then you've been around the wrong people. Maybe. She reached up, touched his face. Did you mean it? What you said in there? Which part? The part about loving me. Adrian covered her hand with his. I said I was getting there, and I am. Fast. Probably too fast. But I don't know how to slow down when it comes to you. I don't want you to slow down. No? No, because I'm getting there too, and it terrifies me. But she took a breath. I think I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you. He kissed her then, in the parking lot of an overpriced French restaurant, and Lena felt something shift inside her. A door opening, a wall coming down, all the careful protection she'd built around her heart cracking wide open. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. Come home with me, he said. Adrian, not for that, just come home. Stay. Let me hold you. Let me prove that this is real. Lena should say no, should maintain boundaries, take things slow, protect herself. But she was done being careful. Okay, she whispered. Okay. They drove to his brownstone in silence, hands clasped between them. Emma was asleep at Anna's, a planned sleepover that suddenly felt like fate. Inside, Adrian poured them both wine, and they sat on the couch, wrapped in each other. I'm sorry about my mother, Lena said after a while. Don't be. She loves you. She's just bad at showing it. She thinks I'm wasting my potential. You're not. You're using your potential exactly how you're supposed to, making the world better, one kid at a time. You really believe that? I do. I've built an empire, Lena. I've made more money than I know what to do with. And you know what? It's empty. It doesn't mean anything. But what you do, teaching those kids, that matters. That lasts. He pulled her closer. I'd trade everything I've built to have the kind of impact you have. You're just saying that. I'm not. Emma's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, she's the reason Emma loves learning. She's the reason my daughter reads above grade level and asks questions about everything and thinks she can be whatever she wants to be. That's power, Lena. Real power. The kind money can't buy. Lena felt tears slip down her cheeks. Adrian wiped them away gently. Why are you crying? Because nobody's ever understood before. My parents, my friends, they all act like I'm settling, like I gave up on my dreams. But teaching was always the dream, helping kids, making a difference. And you get it. You actually get it. Of course I get it. I watch you light up when you talk about your students. I see the drawings they make you. I hear the way you talk about them, with so much love and patience and hope. How could I not get it? They stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other. Eventually, Adrian carried her upstairs to his bedroom, a space that was clearly his, masculine and clean, with photos of Emma on the dresser and books stacked on the nightstand. They lay down together, fully clothed, and Adrian wrapped himself around her like he was trying to memorize her shape. I'm falling in love with you, he said into the darkness. I know it's too soon. I know we barely know each other, but I can't help it. You make me feel alive again. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. I'm falling too, so fast it scares me. Be scared, but don't run. I won't, not this time. They fell asleep like that, tangled together, and Lena had never felt safer in her life. She woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee brewing. For a moment she was disoriented, then memory flooded back. Dinner, her parents, Adrian defending her, coming home with him. She patted downstairs in one of his t-shirts, which he must have left out for her while she slept. Adrian was in the kitchen, making pancakes, still in his dress pants from last night, but shirtless. Morning, he said, looking up. His eyes went dark, seeing her in his shirt. Coffee? Please. He poured her a cup, kissed her temple as he handed it to her. Sleep okay. Better than I have in years. Good. He flipped a pancake. Emma's going to be home at 10. We have about 2 hours of peace and quiet. What should we do with 2 hours? Adrian set down the spatula, pulled her close. I can think of a few things. They didn't make it through breakfast. Later, lying in his bed with the sheets tangled around them, Lena felt more content than she'd ever been. Adrian traced patterns on her shoulder, his touch gentle. I have to tell you something, he said quietly. Her stomach dropped. Okay. I have a business trip next week. 3 days in Chicago. I can try to reschedule, but don't go. Do your job. I don't want to leave you. It's 3 days, Adrian. I'll survive. Will you? He rolled to face her. Because I'm not sure I will. That's dramatic. I'm serious. I've gotten used to seeing you every day, hearing your voice, having you in my life. 3 days feels like forever. Then we'll make it work. Video calls, text messages, whatever it takes. Come with me. Lena blinked. What? Come with me. To Chicago. Take a few days off work. We'll make it a trip. I'll do my meetings, and when I'm done, we'll explore the city. Together. I can't just take off work. Why not? You have personal days, don't you? Yes, but what? What's stopping you? Lena sat up, pulling the sheet around herself. It's irresponsible. I can't just abandon my students for a trip to Chicago. It's 3 days. They'll have a substitute. They'll be fine. You don't understand. I've never taken a personal day that wasn't for sickness. I've never just taken off. For fun. Then it's time you did. Adrian sat up beside her. Lena, you spend your whole life taking care of other people. Your students, your parents, everyone. When do you take care of yourself? She didn't have an answer. Come with me. Please. Let me show you Chicago. Let me prove that you're allowed to put yourself first sometimes. She wanted to. Wanted it so badly it ached. But years of being responsible, of putting duty first, held her back. I'll think about it, she said finally. That's not a no. It's not a yes either. I'll take it. He kissed her softly. Think about it. And whatever you decide, I'll respect it. But I hope you say yes. Emma came home at 10, bursting with energy and stories about her sleepover. She stopped short when she saw Lena at the kitchen table. Did you stay over? Emma asked, her eyes wide. Yes, Lena said, feeling her face heat. Cool. Does that mean you're Dad's girlfriend now? Emma, Adrian started. What? I'm just asking. Emma climbed into the chair next to Lena. Are you? Lena looked at Adrian, who was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. I guess I am. Yes. Emma punched the air. Yes. Aunt Anna owes me $5. I said you'd be official by this week, and she said it would take longer. You bet on us? Adrian asked, amused. Duh. Aunt Anna bets on everything. Emma turned back to Lena. Can you stay for lunch? Dad's making grilled cheese. It's the only thing he can make that doesn't burn. Hey, Adrian protested. It's true, and you know it. Lena laughed, and just like that, the awkwardness dissolved. They spent the afternoon together. Lunch, a walk to the park, Emma teaching Lena about different types of rocks she'd collected. It felt domestic, natural. It felt like family. That night, after Emma went to bed, Adrian walked Lena to her car. Think about Chicago, he said, pulling her close. I want to show you the city. Want to wake up next to you. Want to prove that you're allowed to be spontaneous. I'm not spontaneous. I know. That's why you need this trip. He kissed her forehead. Say yes, Lena Carter. Be brave. She drove home with his words echoing in her head. Be brave. When had she stopped being brave? When had she let fear and responsibility become the same thing? That night she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and made a decision. The next morning she called her principal. I need to request 3 personal days, she said, her heart pounding. Next week, Monday through Wednesday. There was a pause. Is everything all right, Lena? Yes, I need some time. Of course. I'll arrange for a substitute. Enjoy your time off. It was that simple, that easy. And Lena felt something like freedom settle in her chest. She texted Adrian, I'm coming to Chicago. His response was immediate. Best message I've ever received. I'll book the tickets. I can pay for my own ticket. I know you can, but I want to do this. Let me. Please. Lena hesitated, then typed, Okay, thank you, for being brave, for saying yes, for everything. She smiled at her phone, feeling giddy and terrified and completely out of her depth. But for once in her life, she didn't care. She was done being careful, done playing it safe. She was going to jump, and she was going to trust that Adrian would catch her. And if he didn't, if this all fell apart and she got hurt, at least she'd know she'd been brave enough to try. The week leading up to Chicago felt like holding her breath. Lena went through the motions at school, teaching, grading, smiling at parents, but her mind was elsewhere. On Adrian, on the trip, on the fact that she was doing something completely out of character, and it felt both terrifying and right. Friday afternoon, her last day before leaving, one of her students' mothers cornered her after pickup. Miss Carter, I wanted to thank you, the woman said, clutching Lena's hand. Tyler's been struggling with reading all year, and this week he finished his first chapter book. He was so proud. You did that. Lena felt her throat tighten. Tyler did that. I just helped. You made him believe he could. That's everything. After the mother left, Lena sat alone in her classroom, looking at the artwork on the walls, the books on the shelves, the alphabet cards she'd made by hand. This was her world. Small, maybe. Modest. But it mattered. It was enough. Her phone buzzed. Adrian, picking you up at 6 tomorrow morning, pack light. And bring something fancy. I have plans for Saturday night. What kind of plans? The kind you'll like. Trust me. I'm starting to think I trust you too much. Impossible. You don't trust me nearly enough yet, but you will. That night, Lena packed and repacked her suitcase 3 times. What did you bring to Chicago with a billionaire? She'd never been someone who cared about clothes, but suddenly every item in her closet felt wrong. Too casual, too cheap, too much like herself. Jennifer came over at 9, took one look at the disaster that was Lena's bedroom, and started pulling things out of the suitcase. You're overthinking this, Jennifer said, holding up a sundress. He likes you, not your wardrobe. Easy for you to say. You're not dating someone who probably has assistants who dress better than I do. Stop. You're spiraling. Jennifer sat on the bed. What's really going on here? Lena sank down beside her. What if I don't fit? What if we get to Chicago and I realize I'm completely out of my depth? What if... Her voice cracked. What if he realizes I'm not worth all this? Lena. Jennifer grabbed her shoulders. Listen to me. That man defended you to your mother. He introduced you to his daughter. He's flying you to Chicago. Those aren't the actions of someone who's going to wake up and decide you're not worth it. But what if? No more what ifs. You're going. You're going to have an amazing time, and you're going to stop sabotaging yourself. Jennifer squeezed her hands. You deserve this. You deserve him. Start believing it. Adrian arrived at exactly 6 the next morning, looking unfairly awake and put together. Lena was still half asleep, clutching her travel mug of coffee like a lifeline. Morning, he said, taking her suitcase. Ready? Define ready. He laughed, kissed her forehead. You'll be fine, come on. The flight was first class. Of course it was first class. And Lena spent the first 20 minutes trying not to look like she'd never flown first class before. Adrian watched her with barely concealed amusement. You can relax, he said. It's just a plane. With seats that recline into beds and flight attendants who know your name. They know everyone's name. That's their job. No one's ever known my name on a plane. Usually I'm in 32B between a screaming baby and someone who takes off their shoes. Adrian took her hand. Get used to this, because I plan on taking you places. Lots of places. Adrian, I mean it. Paris, Tokyo, anywhere you want to go. All those places you told me you've always wanted to see but couldn't afford. We're going. I can't let you pay for everything. Why not? I have the money. You have the time off. We have each other. What's stopping us? Pride? Common sense? The fact that we've known each other less than a month? All terrible reasons. He lifted her hand, kissed her knuckles. Let me do this for you. Let me show you the world. Please. And there it was again, that impossible offer, delivered like it was simple, like rewriting her entire life was just a matter of saying yes. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Chicago was cold and beautiful and overwhelming. Adrian's meetings took up Monday and Tuesday morning, leaving Lena to explore the city alone. She walked Michigan Avenue, visited the Art Institute, ate deep dish pizza that was too much food but somehow exactly right. Tuesday evening, Adrian took her to dinner at a restaurant on the 95th floor with views that made her dizzy. They talked about everything. Emma's upcoming school play, Lena's students, the property deal Adrian was negotiating that was giving him headaches. Do you ever get tired of it? Lena asked. The business? The constant deals and negotiations? Every day, Adrian admitted. But I don't know how to stop. It's what I'm good at. It's what I built my life around. You could sell it, the company, step back. And do what? I don't know. Spend time with Emma, travel, figure out who you are when you're not working. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. I wouldn't know how to do that. Neither would I. But maybe we could figure it out together. He reached across the table, took her hand. Is that what you want? A future with me? Lena's heart raced. I think so. Maybe. I don't know. It's fast, Adrian. It's all so fast. I know. But when you know, right? Do you? No? Yeah. His voice was steady, certain. I do. Wednesday morning, Adrian's last meeting was canceled. They spent the day at Navy Pier walking along the lakefront like tourists. Adrian bought her a Chicago sweatshirt from a vendor, and she wore it even though it was too big and made her look ridiculous. You look cute, Adrian said, pulling her close. I look like I'm drowning in fabric. Cute. I said what I said. They got lunch at a hole-in-the-wall Mexican place, and Adrian told her stories about Sarah, real stories, not the sanitized versions people usually told about the dead. How she used to steal the covers in her sleep. How she couldn't cook to save her life. How she'd laugh at her own jokes before she finished telling them. "Thank you," Lena said quietly. "For what?" "For trusting me enough to remember her honestly, not just the perfect version. She wasn't perfect. Neither am I. Neither are you. That's what makes this real." That afternoon, back at the hotel, Adrian pulled Lena onto the balcony overlooking the city. "I have something to tell you," he said, and his voice was nervous in a way she'd never heard before. Her stomach dropped. "Okay. I've been thinking about what you said, about stepping back from work, about figuring out who I am outside of the company." He took both her hands. "I'm going to do it. Not all at once. I can't just walk away. But I'm going to start delegating, start building a team I can trust, start being present instead of just busy." "Adrian, you don't have to." "I do. For Emma. For myself. For—" He paused. "For us. Because I want a future with you, Lena. A real one. And I can't have that if I'm married to my work." Lena felt tears prick her eyes. "That's a big decision. It's the right decision. You made me see that. You made me remember that there's more to life than building empires." "What if you regret it? What if you step back and realize you miss it?" "Then I'll adjust. But I won't regret choosing you. I won't regret choosing life over work." He pulled her closer. "I'm all in, Lena. Completely. Terrifyingly. All in." "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too. But let's be scared together." They flew home Thursday morning, and Lena felt different, lighter, like she'd left some heavy thing behind in Chicago and picked up something better in its place. Emma was waiting at Adrian's house with Anna, practically vibrating with excitement. "Did you bring me something?" Emma demanded the second they walked in. "Emma, manners," Anna chided. "What? I'm just asking." Adrian laughed, pulled a small package from his bag. "I might have found something dinosaur-related." Emma tore into it, revealing a model velociraptor skeleton. "This is so cool! Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Lena." "I didn't—" "She helped me pick it out," Adrian said smoothly. "It was a joint effort." Emma hugged them both, then ran off to examine her new prize. Anna raised her eyebrows at Lena. "So, Chicago, how was it?" "Good," Lena said, feeling her face heat. "Really good." "I bet," Anna grinned. "My brother's been insufferable all week, texting me updates like I care about his business meetings. He's got it bad." "Anna," Adrian warned. "What? I'm just stating facts." She grabbed her purse. "I'm going to leave you lovebirds alone. Emma, say goodbye to Aunt Anna." After Anna left, the three of them settled into an easy evening. Dinner, homework help for Emma, a movie that Emma fell asleep during halfway through. Adrian carried her up to bed, and when he came back down, he found Lena standing in his living room, looking at the photos on the mantel. "You can add one," Adrian said quietly. "Of us, if you want." Lena turned to face him. "Is that what this is? Are we really doing this?" "I think we are. Unless you're having second thoughts." "I'm having about 1,000 thoughts, but second thoughts aren't among them." Adrian crossed the room, pulled her into his arms. "Good, because I meant what I said in Chicago. I'm all in. And I need to know if you are too." Lena looked up at him, this man who'd walked into her life 3 weeks ago and turned everything upside down. This man who defended her, who challenged her, who made her believe she was worth choosing. "I'm all in," she said. Completely terrified, but all in. He kissed her then, deep and slow, and Lena felt the last of her walls crumble. This was real. This was happening. This was her life now. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. Lena taught, Adrian worked from home more, and they spent every available moment together. Emma started calling Lena by her first name without the Miss prefix, which felt significant. Rachel called to check in and seemed genuinely happy. Even Lena's mother sent a grudging text. "Your father likes Adrian. High praise." It felt almost too perfect, too easy, and Lena kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped on a Tuesday. Lena was leaving school when she saw him. Elliot, standing next to her car, holding flowers. Her stomach turned to ice. "Lena," he said as she approached, "I've been hoping to catch you." "What are you doing here?" Her voice was cold. "I wanted to apologize for standing you up, for that text. I was an idiot. Yeah, you were. Is that all? No, He ran his hand through his hair. I made a mistake. I looked at your profile and made assumptions. But then I ran into Rachel last week and she told me about you, about your work, your students, the kind of person you are. And I realized I screwed up, big time. Okay, apology noted. I need to go. Wait! He stepped in front of her. Give me another chance. Let me take you to dinner. Let me prove I'm not the jerk who sent that text. I'm seeing someone. Rachel mentioned, but it's new, right? You barely know him. It might not work out. Lena felt anger flare, hot and sharp. You don't know anything about my relationship. I know you deserve someone who shows up, someone who appreciates you, someone who sees my value from the start, someone who doesn't need my sister to convince him I'm worth his time. Lena stepped closer, and Elliot actually backed up. You had your chance, Elliot. You chose not to take it. You don't get to come back now and act like you're doing me a favor. Lena, I'm trying to make yourself feel better. I know, but I don't care about your guilt or your second thoughts. I care about people who show up, who stay, who choose me first, not as a backup plan. She moved around him to her car. Lose my number, lose my address, and don't ever show up at my workplace again. She got in her car and drove away, hands shaking on the wheel. She made it 2 blocks before she had to pull over, her heart racing. Her phone rang, Adrian's name on the screen. Hey, she answered, trying to keep her voice steady. Hey, you sound weird. Everything okay? Yeah, no, I don't know. She took a breath. Elliot showed up at my school. The guy who stood me up. He wanted to apologize, wanted another chance. Silence. Then, carefully, what did you say? I told him to leave, that I was with someone, that he missed his chance. And how do you feel about that? Good, right, like I made the correct choice. She paused, but also confused, because a month ago I would have said yes. I would have been so grateful that someone wanted a second chance with me that I would have ignored every red flag. And now? Now I know what it feels like to be someone's first choice, and I'm not going back to being an option. She could hear the smile in Adrian's voice. I'm proud of you. For what? For knowing your worth, for not settling, for choosing yourself. I'm choosing you too. I know. That's what makes it perfect. Lena drove to Adrian's house, let herself in with the key he'd given her last week. Emma was at a friend's house, so it was just the two of them. Adrian pulled her close the moment she walked in. Tell me what you need, he said. Just this. You, here. They sat on the couch, Lena tucked against his side, and she told him everything. About Elliot's flowers, his apology, the way he'd made it sound like he was doing her a favor. About how a month ago she might have believed him. But you don't now, Adrian said. It wasn't a question. No, because I finally understand the difference between someone who wants me when it's convenient and someone who wants me, period. You know what I love about you? Adrian said quietly. What? You're finally starting to see yourself the way I see you, strong, valuable, someone worth fighting for. He kissed her temple. That's all I've ever wanted. For you to know your worth. I'm getting there. Slowly. That's all I ask. Slow is fine, as long as you're moving forward. They stayed like that until Emma came home, full of energy and stories. The 3 of them made dinner together, actual cooking, not just ordering takeout, and Emma set the table without being asked. It felt domestic, normal, like family. After Emma went to bed, Adrian pulled Lena back onto the couch. I've been thinking, he said. That sounds dangerous. Probably. But hear me out. He took her hands. Move in with me. Lena's brain short-circuited. What? Move in. You're here most nights anyway. Emma loves you. He stopped himself. I love having you here. It feels right. Like this is how it's supposed to be. Adrian, we've only been together a month, 5 weeks, but who's counting? He smiled, but his eyes were serious. I know it's fast. I know all the reasons it's crazy, but I also know that I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want Emma to have you in her life consistently. I want to build something real with you, and I can't do that when you're living across town in a studio apartment that's too small and too expensive. I can't just... Why not? What's stopping you? Fear. Logic. The fact that people don't do this. Not this fast. Some people do. The people who know what they want. The people who are tired of wasting time. He cupped her face. I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. I'm just asking you to take the next step. To be brave. To trust that this is real. Lena's heart hammered. What if it doesn't work? What if we move in together and realize we drive each other crazy? Then we'll figure it out together. That's what relationships are. Figuring things out as you go. I need time to think about this. Take all the time you need. But know that I'm serious. This isn't a whim. This is me asking you to build a life with me. Lena went home that night and stared at her apartment. It was small and cramped and filled with things that didn't matter, but it was hers. Safe. Controlled. A place where she couldn't get hurt because she was the only one in it. But she was so tired of safe. She called Jennifer at midnight. He asked me to move in, Lena blurted out when Jennifer answered. And I'm terrified. Of course you are. It's a big step. Jennifer yawned. Do you want to? Yes, maybe. I don't know. Lena, do you trust him? Yes? Do you love him? She stopped. Did she? Could she? After only 5 weeks? Yes, I think I do. Then what's the problem? I've never done this before. Never lived with someone. Never let someone in this completely. I know, and that's scary. But staying in your tiny apartment where you're safe and alone, is that really better, or is it just easier? The question hit like a punch. Easier. That's what her whole life had been. Easier choices. Safer choices. Choices that protected her heart, but left her alone. I want to say yes, Lena whispered. Then say yes. What if I'm making a mistake? What if you're not? Lena sat with that question for 2 days. Went to work, taught her students, graded papers, and every night she went to Adrian's house, and every night it felt more like home than her apartment ever had. Thursday evening, Emma was doing homework at the kitchen table when she looked up at Lena. Are you going to live here? Emma asked bluntly. Lena nearly dropped the dish she was washing. What? Dad said he asked you to move in. Are you going to? I don't know yet. Why not? It's complicated, Emma. No, it's not. Either you want to live here or you don't. Emma went back to her math worksheet. I want you to. You make Dad happy, and you help with homework better than he does. Adrian appeared in the doorway, looking apologetic. Emma, we talked about this. What? I'm just being honest. You always say honesty is important. Yes, but there's also such a thing as timing. I'll do it, Lena interrupted. Both Emma and Adrian stared at her. I'll move in, if the offer's still open. Adrian crossed the room in 3 strides, pulled her into his arms. It's open. It's always open. I'm scared, she whispered. I know, we'll be scared together. Emma cheered from the kitchen table. Does this mean we're a family now? Lena looked at Adrian, who was looking at her with so much hope and love it made her chest ache. Yeah, Lena said, feeling tears prick her eyes. I think it does. Moving in was chaos. Lena's lease ended in 2 weeks, so they spent every evening packing her tiny apartment into boxes. Adrian hired movers, which Lena protested until he pointed out that carrying furniture down 3 flights of stairs was stupid when they could pay someone else to do it. Emma helped, mostly by creating more chaos. But her enthusiasm was infectious. She insisted on helping Lena pack her books, organizing them by color in a system that made no sense but that Emma swore was scientifically proven. Rachel drove down to help, took one look at Adrian's brownstone, and pulled Lena aside. You're really doing this, she said. I'm really doing this. Are you sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Rachel hugged her fiercely. I'm proud of you for being brave, for choosing happiness over safety. You sound like Jennifer. Jennifer's smart. You should listen to her more. The day Lena officially moved in, Adrian made pancakes for breakfast, and Emma made a welcome sign that was covered in glitter and dinosaur stickers. It was ridiculous and perfect, and Lena cried when she saw it. I told you she'd cry, Emma said to Adrian. You did. You were right. That night, after Emma was in bed, Adrian and Lena stood in their bedroom, shared space, shared life. No regrets? Adrian asked. 1,000 fears, 0 regrets. Good. He pulled her close. I know this is fast. I know it's crazy. but I've never been more sure of anything. Even with all my baggage, all my insecurities, especially with those, because they make you human, real, and I don't want perfect, I just want you. Lena kissed him, deep and slow, pouring everything she couldn't say into it. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against his. I love you, she said. I'm terrified to say it, but I do. I love you. Adrian's smile could have lit the city. I love you too. Have since that first night at Marcello's when you looked like you wanted to disappear and I wanted to make you stay. That's dramatic. That's true. They fell into bed together, wrapped in each other, and Lena had never felt more at home. The next few months were adjustment, learning to share space, to navigate schedules, to be part of a family. It wasn't perfect. They fought about stupid things like who forgot to buy milk and whether Emma could watch TV before homework. But they figured it out. Together. Lena's students noticed the change in her. She was lighter, happier, more present. Several parents commented on it at conferences. You're glowing, one mother said. What's your secret? No secret, just happy. Adrian did what he'd promised, started delegating at work, hiring a management team he could trust, spending more time at home. He coached Emma's soccer team, even though he knew nothing about soccer. He showed up at Lena's school events, sitting in tiny kindergarten chairs to watch her students perform. And slowly, Lena started to believe this was real. This was her life. She was allowed to have this. 6 months after she moved in, Adrian took her back to Marcello's, the same restaurant where they'd met, where her whole life had changed. Why are we here? Lena asked as they were seated at the same table, table 17. Because this is where it started, where I saw you sitting alone and decided to take a chance. Adrian took her hand across the table. And I wanted to come back, to close the circle. That's sentimental. I'm a sentimental guy. Deal with it. They ordered the same food they'd had that first night, talked and laughed and remembered. And then, as dessert arrived, Adrian got down on one knee. Lena's heart stopped. I know it's been fast, Adrian said, pulling out a ring box. I know we've only been together 8 months. I know all the logical reasons to wait, but I also know that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to raise Emma with you. I want to build something real and lasting and true. So Lena Carter, will you marry me? Lena was crying, hands shaking, heart about to burst out of her chest. Yes, yes, absolutely yes. He slid the ring on her finger, simple, elegant, exactly her style, and kissed her while the entire restaurant applauded. It was dramatic and public and everything Lena normally hated. But with Adrian, it was perfect. They got married 3 months later in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Emma was the flower girl and took her job very seriously. Lena's mother cried, which she claimed was because of allergies, but everyone knew better. Her father pulled Adrian aside before the ceremony and said simply, "Take care of my girl." "Always," Adrian promised. Standing at the altar, looking at Adrian in his suit and Emma in her flower girl dress, and all the people who'd come to celebrate them, Lena thought about that night at Marcello's. About sitting alone, humiliated, ready to give up. About how one person, one moment could change everything. I love you, she whispered, as the officiant pronounced them married. I love you too, Adrian said. Always. They kissed, and Emma cheered, and Lena felt something settle in her chest. Not perfection. Not a fairy tale ending, just real love with a real person who saw her value and chose her first. And that, she thought, as Adrian spun her around while their guests applauded, was more than enough. It was everything. Years later, when people asked how they met, Lena would laugh and say it was a disaster that turned into destiny. Adrian would add that he knew the moment he saw her that she was worth fighting for. Emma would roll her eyes and say her parents were embarrassingly romantic, but that she guessed it was kind of sweet. And Lena would think about that scared woman sitting alone in a restaurant, feeling invisible and unwanted. She'd think about how close she'd come to walking away, to giving up, to accepting that she wasn't worth showing up for. And she'd be grateful, endlessly, impossibly grateful, that Adrian Cole had been sitting at that bar, that he'd seen her, that he'd chosen to stay. Because sometimes, when you stop protecting yourself long enough to be vulnerable, when you're brave enough to believe you deserve more, that's when real love finds you. Not perfect love, not easy love, but real love. The kind that shows up, the kind that stays, the kind that looks at you on your worst day and says, "You're worth it." And that kind of love, Lena had learned, was worth every risk, worth every fear, worth everything.